Over the past year, we've seen a lot of volatility in the crypto space, specifically with Solana. Solana has rallied over 350% over the last year. We've seen top Solana meme coins explode in value, and now there's been some issues. There's been a major outage for the Solana network, and people are saying maybe Solana is going to keep falling, maybe it's not as good as we've seen. So I want to debunk a few things going on with Solana right now, as well as address a few major things in the overall crypto market. So starting off with the overall crypto market, we're seeing that Bitcoin is sitting just above $43,000 per coin, and Ethereum has been rallying over the last 24 hours to around $2,380 per coin. Currently, we're still in the neutral territory on the Fear and Greed Index, so we still are gearing up and priming up for a massive breakout in the crypto space. If we're looking at it, we're seeing that Bitcoin on the weekly chart did bounce off of a key support of right around 41,500. We had dropped down below, and this is historically a very bullish sign. So our next level of resistance is going to be right at 45,000. If we zoom in a bit further, look on the hourly charts, we actually see that over the last few days or so, really over the last 7 to 10 days, we've seen that Bitcoin has been forming this key chart right here, where you could see this support, where we've seen higher lows every single time over the last week or so, and we've also seen lower highs. So we're seeing this wedge form where it's gearing up for a breakout, either for the upside or the downside for Bitcoin. I'm predicting that we will see a breakout towards the upside because we have seen a lot of bullish news as of recently. We've seen a lot of institutional demand coming into the crypto space, but you do have to be aware of this because over the next, let's say, 4 days, we're going to see a decision whether or not Bitcoin is going to continue its rally higher, or if we're going to see a correction back down to those lower levels, potentially around that $37,500 per coin range. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about Memeinator, because about 3 months ago, back in October, I did an entire video breaking down why I invested in MMTR. It was in pre-sale at the time. They'd raised less than $1 million, and now since then, they've been doing some pretty big things. They've raised just over $4.1 million. Currently, they're in stage 14 of their pre-sale, and is almost completely filled up. The current price is 0.0208 per token. In the next stage, the price is going to go up to 0.022. The cool thing about this project is that if you haven't already gotten involved, when we did our first video on it back in October, well, it's still available to be bought. And for those of you who haven't seen that, I'll link that video down below. But the reason I want to talk about it today and do a bit of an update is because they've officially surpassed that $4 million mark. And if you look on their Twitter, they talk about how they have officially been, advertising, running ads, and really growing the project tremendously over the last few months. Really, right now, one of the main things that they do is that they have this $250,000 Virgin Galactic giveaway. And ultimately, the way that that works for Memeinator is if you scroll down, they talk about how with this $250,000 trip, they are basically allowing anyone who goes ahead and buys in their pre-sale to be a part of this giveaway. There have been a total of 419,000 entries and only 59 days left. The way it works is ultimately once you submit your crypto wallet address and you confirm that you have bought the tokens, you could go ahead and also connect other various accounts, so like verify that you're following them on Twitter or that you've joined their Discord, and all of these things help to increase your total number of entries. So if you want to be a part of this project, ultimately they've been doing some pretty big things over the last few months, and I'm expecting 2024 to be a massive year for them. Then you should definitely go ahead and check it out and get involved in their pre-sale before it runs out, because they've raised an additional $3.3 million since we last talked about it. If we're looking on the institutional front, we've seen a lot of volatility there because BlackRock and Fidelity Bitcoin ETFs have reached the top 10 ETFs out of all ETFs in terms of inflows. If you're looking at the chart for inflows into ETFs, you can see that iShares Bitcoin Trust ETF and Fidelity Wise Origin Bitcoin ETF were in the top 10 in terms of all ETFs in terms of inflows in the month of January. We saw $2.6 billion into iShares Bitcoin Trust, and we saw $2.2 billion into Fidelity Wise Origin Bitcoin ETF. So this is ultimately showing us that we're seeing a lot of institutional demand. This is a very bullish sign for the overall crypto market because it's good to see that these investment products, these Bitcoin ETFs are performing well, and we are seeing a lot of money coming in to these different investment products. Now, if we switch gears a bit and look at some of the bad news, we've seen that first, Genesis is seeking approval to sell $1.6 billion in Bitcoin and Ethereum from their holdings as part of Grayscale Bitcoin Trust and Grayscale Ethereum Trust. So you can see that bankrupt crypto lender Genesis filed a motion the other day asking a U.S. judge to approve the sale of over $1.6 billion in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ethereum Classic held in Grayscale Trust products. This is pretty bad because just a few weeks ago, we saw bankrupt exchange FTX sell over $1 billion worth of GBTC holdings. And so as a result of that, we saw Bitcoin's price fall pretty substantially. We've also seen that now with Genesis potentially selling another $1.6 billion, this should just add more selling pressure to the overall market. So this could prevent us from seeing that breakout that we discussed earlier, seeing Bitcoin rally higher and start breaking above this key resistance and break out of this wedge pattern. If we're looking at what's going on with Solana, Solana has seen a lot of good news over the last year. We've seen the Solana meme coin market rally to over $1.2 billion at one point in time, currently sitting around 954 million. We're seeing that Bonk has fallen substantially over the last 7 days, but still is at a $612 million market cap. We're seeing WIF is at a $200 million market cap. We're seeing Myro is at around a $63 million market cap. All these projects are up substantially in the last year, despite seeing massive corrections as of recently. But the reason why we're seeing a lot of negative news in Solana projects, why we're seeing a lot of these projects down, is because Solana, while it has rallied over 350% for the year, up around 318% a year over the last 365 days, is because Solana's network recently had to restart. It had an outage that lasted 5 hours. This took place on Tuesday, February 6, 2024. It was the first outage in a while, and it began at around 9:53 UTC. It lasted 5 hours. So this is something that's important because when you're looking at Solana, it's had multiple outages over the last few years. We've seen outages during the last bull market when a lot of people started using the platform. And every single time we've seen anything happen with Solana in terms of good news, it seems to always be that there's a network outage. And a lot of people have been commenting about it, saying, it can never scale long term because of all these outages. On the other hand, Solana's team has been saying these are basically growing pains, helping them improve the network long term. There's nothing to worry about. So ultimately, the thing you need to know with this is that, yes, there have been a lot of network outages in Solana over the last few years. They're not good. But the key thing that separates Solana from other layer 1 cryptos in the sense of having outages is that even though Solana has had some outages, you can't deny it, still no funds have ever been lost due to a Solana network outage, which is good news. So it's showing us that there's still secure network. You can still process on it, not have to worry about losing your funds as a result of an outage. It just means that, yeah, they still have a lot of growing pains in the sense of they need to improve the blockchain, make sure things can function without having these outages when you're seeing increased activity. So right now, a lot of people are predicting that Solana can reach $1,000 per coin during the next bull market, can do a 10x from where it currently is to be around a $500 billion market cap. I think that is a bit too bullish. I think we will see and reclaim those record highs that we saw back in 2021. I think it is possible we could reach around a $300 per coin mark, which would be around a 3x from where we're currently at. And that's just something you need to keep an eye out on. But ultimately, Solana did have an outage. It lasted 5 hours. But the key thing to note with Solana, and the thing that most people don't talk about, is while outages are bad, Solana has never had any issues of its users or any transactions where people have lost funds as a result of an outage. So ultimately, there's a lot of stuff going on in the market. If you're a short-term trader, keep an eye out on these key levels, keep an eye out on this wedge pattern that has been forming, and we will keep an eye out on what is going on with institutional demand for Bitcoin ETFs.